What we see as our reality has a great deal more to do with what we know than what might be considered actual truth. Scientific research has discovered significant evidence suggesting that what we know is familiar affects our perception of the world. Because of what we perceive to be true, we can become stuck in believing that our personal identity is a permanent thing. Our thoughts tend to be addictive due to the emotions they produce. Those emotions create a rush of chemicals and energy within the body and the brain, whether they are positive or negative. Then, the combination of repeated thoughts and emotions creates a belief and our perception of reality. The brain then searches for and finds things in our surroundings and everyday experience to prove and validate whichever thoughts, emotions, and beliefs we have. This is so it can reaffirm who we think and believe we are. The brain also finds it difficult to deviate from a perception because the chemical reactions created during this process are familiar territory. If it doesn't get the normal dose of chemicals that it's used to getting, it will quickly try to find ways to do so by aligning a person with things that relate to their perception of who they are and what life means to them. When we're not thinking the same thoughts that produce the same chemicals that the brain and body are used to, we can be given signals that make us feel uncertain, doubtful, and hesitant that there actually might be other possibilities. And this is the reason that many people find change to be difficult. Their identity must remain intact for comfort and familiarity reasons. In other words, feeling uncertain and doubtful feels worse to the brain and body than the feelings that are attached to the identity and perception that keeps them in a repeat of their current circumstances. What all of this means is this. This cycle can keep a person stuck in a past that constantly recreates the same things in their present and their future. The body believes it's still living in those past experiences based on the thoughts, emotions, and chemical reactions being created within. As Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it, feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences. If you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become your means of thinking, are you thinking in the future, or are you thinking in the past? It's as simple as knowing that your emotions make you believe who you are, but we can't create the future from the past. If you don't know the emotions of freedom, security, love, happiness, abundance, and all of the other positive feeling states available in a familiar way, the brain and body are not seeking validation for them in your everyday experience. So the mind must become in charge of the body to create a new identity and a new reality. The inner world is more real than the outer world, and we have the great ability to control that inner world with just a little discipline. Here are 3 quick and easy ways to gain control of creating your reality. Number 1. Whenever you feel yourself having a strong emotional response to something, especially one that doesn't feel good to you, pause for a moment and ask yourself if you are reacting to something that is happening in the outer world. Most likely, this will be the case. In that moment, realize that you have the opportunity to create something new internally. Pause long enough to expand your consciousness in that moment. You can do this by disciplining yourself to become centered, by going within to find a reason to feel emotionally positive. This can be as simple as remembering a time when something great happened to you, or visualizing a life that you dream of and how that feels, or even shifting your emotions to a positive state by thinking of a funny joke. The point is to stop the addictive negative reaction and replace it with something new. Number 2. Another way to control your emotions when they don't feel good, and to change the way your brain works in that moment, is by asking yourself questions that prompt the mind to depart from the established course. Here are a few fantastic questions that will generally do the trick. What would it look like if? Fill the rest of this question in with something new that you would like to create, such as, what would it look like if I felt great no matter what is happening? Or, what would it look like if I lived the life of my dreams? You can also ask yourself, who do I admire that I would like to be like and why? Or, what does the best expression of myself look like? Or even, how good could my life get? The brain will immediately go in search of the answer for these types of questions and open itself and you to new possibilities. This also creates a great diversion from the emotional response that isn't moving you towards a new reality. Number 3, make time to be kind to yourself each day. Realize that your brain and body are just doing their job and they need you to consciously give them new directions. Look at yourself in the mirror each morning, put your hands over your heart, and tell yourself, today I'm going to teach you what it feels like to be abundant, or happy, or experience freedom, or whatever it is that you ultimately want to feel and experience. Throughout your day, make the conscious effort to find ways to produce that feeling instead of running on autopilot. This can happen in simple ways such as through meditation and visualization, or by looking for things on the internet or in books that match what you desire, or finding people that inspire you to stay positive. Once you have that feeling, memorize it in your brain and in your body. Simply tell yourself that you are memorizing this feeling while you feel it in its most heightened state, and set a physical trigger at the same time. You can set this trigger by tugging on your earlobe or lightly pinching yourself somewhere. Anytime you feel yourself reacting in your usual way, use your trigger. This will help you maintain that modified state of mind and body by releasing the chemicals that match it. It teaches your brain that this is the preferred way you would like to experience life and the way you would like to feel. New information and feeling states, coupled with consistency, creates a new signal within the brain and body. This takes a person from a survival state to the state of creation. Your personality equals your personal reality. By simply learning how to control your emotional reactions, you can literally create a new reality of your choosing. As previously stated, your emotions make you believe who you are. When we consciously choose elevated emotions and couple that with clear intention, the brain and body will find ways to reaffirm that as our new reality. The majority of people spend the majority of their time reliving experiences. But our personal identity and perception of life do not have to be permanent. We have the ability to make thought very real and can turn on any emotion we choose by thought alone. And when we can focus on positive emotions and new possibilities to the exclusion of everything else around us, the body, which alters itself chemically based on thinking, will believe it is in that experience in the present moment.